Good afternoon. We're here to talk about George, who is 10 years old in the 5th grade. The first assessment he was given was the Woodcock-Johnson test of cognitive ability. This is given to assess cognitive strengths and weaknesses, identify learning disabilities, and monitor progress in educational or therapeutic settings. In this particular one, his strengths were visual processing. His weaknesses were comprehension, knowledge, or verbal reasoning, short-term memory, long-term retrieval, fluid reasoning, cognitive processing speed, and auditory processing. The next test was the Woodcock-Johnson test of achievement, which is used to screen, diagnose, and monitor progress in reading, writing, and math. George's strengths were broad written language. His weaknesses were basic reading skills, reading comprehension, reading fluency, math calculation skills, math problem solving, written expression, academic skills, and academic application. The next was a behavior assessment for children, which is the Basque parent rating scales, and this is used to measure the child's behavior at home. He came across as average for externalizing and internalizing problems and adaptive skills, at risk for behavioral symptoms, improvement areas, withdrawal, atypicality, leadership, attention problems, and functional communication. The Basque teacher rating scales, which were used to measure the child's behavior patterns at school. Average would be externalizing and internalizing problems. At risk were adaptive skills, behavior, and school problems. And the improvement areas, social skills, leadership, study skills, withdrawal, attention problems, learning problems, atypicality, depression, and functional communication. The Conners rating scale, parent short form, is used to evaluate inattention, hyperactivity, impulsivity, learning problems, executive function, aggression, and peer relations. He was presenting inattention, learning problems, defiance, aggression, and difficulty in peer relations. In this average level, executive functioning, and hyperactivity, impulsivity. The Conners rating scales, the teacher version, is also used to evaluate inattention, hyperactivity, impulsivity, learning problems, executive functioning, aggression, and peer relations. He was presenting at school inattention, learning problems, executive functioning, and difficulty with peer relations. Average was hyperactivity, impulsivity, and defiance aggression. The clinical evaluation of language fundamentals is used to identify strengths and weaknesses as a basis of intervention recommendations. In the low range was receptive language. In the very low range was expressive language skills. And the low average range was expressive vocabulary skills. This also went along with the expressive one-word picture vocabulary test in the Spanish bilingual edition. And that one is also to evaluate a person's knowledge of English-speaking vocabulary. In the Brunrichs test of motor proficiency, that is to provide a comprehensive overview of fine and gross motor skills in children and young adults within school range. In the below average range, the total motor composite, fine manual control, body coordination, and strength and agility. In the average range was manual coordination. According to the physical therapy school checklist, a brief checklist which was a brief checklist containing basic gross motor skills. This gives the results of functional mobility about school premises, inside the classroom, and during certain school activities. His strengths were that he could navigate the school premises. Weaknesses, limitations with his strength, coordination, balance skills. Some things that he needs: sensory processing, strength, balance, and coordination skills. In the Brigance screening test, which is to measure a student's performance on a specified set of skills over time, George's reading weaknesses were decoding, fluency, comprehension. His strengths were identifying story elements independently. In math, his weaknesses are solving multiple step word problems and reasoning, and his strengths are solving problems using 4 basic operations, knows tools to use to solve problems. In writing, his weaknesses are spelling, organizing thoughts and ideas to be able to write complex sentences and paragraphs, and capitalization rules. His strengths are writing simple sentences with correct noun-verb agreement. Based on all of the test scores, his strengths are visual processing. So George will find it manageable to perceive and think with visual patterns, including the ability to store and recall visual representations, understanding visual input, broad written language. George is able to write simple sentences with assistance. and expressive vocabulary skills, as well as manual coordination. George needs assistance on comprehension, knowledge, or verbal reasoning, short-term memory, long-term retrieval, fluid reasoning, cognitive processing speed, and auditory processing. Because of these things, this indicates that George will find it extremely difficult to nearly impossible to complete tasks that involve his ability to reason verbally using previously learned experiences or procedures, to hold information in immediate awareness and then use it to carry out a goal, to reason using unfamiliar information, to quickly perform cognitive tasks when measured under time pressure, to store information and fluently retrieve it later, and to discriminate and employ auditory information in task performance. His basic reading skills, including reading comprehension, the understanding of what he's reading, as well as how fast he's able, or reading fluency. His basic math skills, including calculation skills and problem solving. His attention problems. His withdrawal does impact his social skills, and fine manual control, body coordination, and strength and agility. In recommendations for writing, George would benefit from the use of graphic organizers, word walls, and writing samples. In math, George would benefit from the use of a number line, multiplication chart, counters, arrays, and fraction strips. Pretty much any kind of manipulative would help him. In reading, George would benefit from multisensory instruction using videos, hands-on activities, music, and movement to show a good understanding of the skills being taught. And in communication, George would benefit from oral repetitions, visual cues, and verbal and written modeling. George currently has the diagnosis of other health impairments and autism.